How you do anything is how you do everything, and if you want to win, you have to treat every action like it matters. That's the standard. That's the mindset. This is not just another talk about success. This is about how to win at everything you do, not sometimes, not when it's easy, every single time. Most people lose not because they're not smart, but because they let comfort lead the way. They delay, they doubt themselves, they wait for motivation, and slowly they start believing that average is normal. But the truth is, your life changes the moment you stop playing small, the moment you stop listening to the noise, the moment you start showing up with intention every day, even when it's hard. This is your wake-up call. In this video, you'll learn how to build a mindset that wins. Take action before excuses take over, and become the kind of person who finishes what they start. No hype. Just the truth you need to finally take control of your life. Chapter 1. Choose progress when your mind wants comfort instead. You want to win. You want results. You want success in everything you do. But here's the truth. Most people don't win, not because they're not capable, but because they choose comfort instead of progress. And the moment you keep choosing comfort, your life stops growing, your progress dies a slow death. That's the deal. That's the exchange you're making. Every time you choose comfort, you lose progress. Progress demands effort. It doesn't feel easy, it doesn't feel natural, it doesn't show up when you're in the mood. Progress isn't about feeling good. It's about choosing to do what works, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. That's when it counts. You have a mind that wants to keep you safe. It wants to protect you from anything uncertain, uncomfortable, unfamiliar. It will come up with reasons to delay, to avoid, to retreat. It will tell you, do it later. You're tired. It's not urgent. You've done enough. That's your comfort talking. That's the enemy of progress. And if you don't learn to ignore it, to shut it down, you'll live your whole life in the same place, with the same excuses, the same limits, the same pain. Progress isn't about taking huge steps every day. It's about taking the right steps, even when they feel small. It's about waking up early when you feel like staying in bed. It's about pushing through when you don't feel like it. It's about keeping promises to yourself when no one else is watching. That's how you grow. That's how you win. You don't win once. You win every day you choose progress over comfort. Most people want the results without the discomfort. They want the rewards without the effort. They want the praise without the discipline. But you can't have it both ways. You either pay the price for progress or you pay the price for staying the same. One leads to strength, the other leads to regret. And the worst kind of pain is the pain of knowing you could have done more but didn't. So ask yourself, what do I really want? Do I want the temporary relief that comes from giving up? Or do I want the deep, lasting pride that comes from pushing through? Winning is not luck. Winning is not talent. Winning is not timing. Winning is a decision. It's a decision to keep going when you feel like quitting. It's a decision to get uncomfortable again and again and again. Always. It may be hard and suck. There will be days when you don't feel like showing up. There will be mornings when you're tired, stressed, and disconnected. Your mind will offer you comfort like a soft bed on a cold morning. And that's the moment where your decision matters the most. That's the test. Will you fold or will you move? The winners in life aren't smarter than you. They don't have some secret advantage. They just make better decisions when it's uncomfortable. They keep showing up when it's boring. They keep trying when it's frustrating. They choose growth when it feels easier to stay still. See, the key to progress is consistency, not intensity. Anyone can show up once in a while when they're excited, but the people who win, they show up even when they're drained. They don't wait for inspiration. They create it by doing. Progress rewards discipline, not emotion. It respects action, not excuses. It listens to results, not feelings. Your future is built in the moments you feel like quitting but choose to stay in the game. That's where the growth happens. That's where your strength is formed. And every time you make that decision, you build self-respect. You begin to trust yourself. You begin to believe that you can handle more. You begin to become the kind of person who wins. Not just once, but over and over. Comfort will always be there. It'll always offer you a way out. It'll always try to talk you into slowing down, playing it safe, doing it later. And comfort sounds convincing when you're tired, when you're doubting, when you're overwhelmed. But comfort never leads to power. It never builds character. It never gives you the life you want. It just keeps you average. And average is not where you're meant to be. Progress is messy. It's tiring. It's slow. But it's real. And every step you take, even when it doesn't feel like much, adds up. That early morning workout, that extra hour of study, that honest conversation, that refusal to give up, those are the things that shape your future. Not big talk, not empty promises, real effort, real actions, repeated daily. When you live in comfort, you miss the challenge, and without challenge you never grow. If you want to win, get used to being uncomfortable. Get used to pushing through resistance. Get used to doing what's necessary instead of what's easy. That's how strong people are built. That's how confidence is built. You earn it. You earn it by doing the work when it's hard. You earn it by becoming the kind of person who doesn't quit on themselves. This is about self-respect. When you choose progress over comfort, you're not just moving forward, you're proving to yourself that you're capable, reliable, strong. That's the foundation of success, that belief in yourself, built brick by brick through action. And one day you'll look back and realize that all those little moments, all those uncomfortable decisions added up to a life you're proud of. No one is coming to save you. No one is going to do the hard work for you, and no one owes you anything. That's the truth. So take control. Decide that your life is worth the fight. Stop waiting for the perfect time. Stop waiting for things to feel right. Take action now, right here, right where you are. Because every second you delay, comfort is gaining ground. And the longer you wait, the harder it becomes to pull away. You already know what needs to be done. Deep down, you know what you've been avoiding. You know where you've been playing small. You know the areas of your life that need work. The question is, will you do it? Will you choose progress when your mind wants comfort? Will you act in spite of fear, doubt, and resistance? Winners don't wait to feel ready. They act when it's hard. They keep going when the mood disappears. They're not driven by what feels good. They're driven by what produces growth. That's the mindset you need. That's the standard you build. That's how you start winning. So today, when your mind offers you the easy way out, say no. Say no to the comfort that weakens you. Say no to the delay that costs you years. Say no to the habit of quitting before it gets good. And say yes to progress, yes to action, yes to becoming the kind of person who wins not just sometimes, but always. Remember this, it's not supposed to be easy, it's supposed to be worth it, and it is. When you do what's hard now, life gets easier later, but if you keep doing what's easy now, life will only get harder. So make the right trade. Every day, progress over comfort, growth over fear, effort over excuses. That's how you win at everything you do. Chapter 2. Control your emotions before they control your choices. You can have all the goals, plans, and talents in the world, but if you don't learn how to manage your emotions, you'll keep making choices that hurt your progress. That's the truth. When your emotions are in charge, logic disappears, discipline weakens, and instead of doing what's right, you start doing what feels good in the moment. And what feels good isn't always what's good for your future. Think about it. How many people lose opportunities because they speak out of anger? How many people walk away from something good just because they felt insecure for 5 minutes? How many people ruin a relationship, quit a job, waste a whole day just because they didn't pause, didn't breathe, didn't slow down when their emotions got loud? That's not life happening to them. That's them letting their emotions run their life. And if you don't learn to stay calm in the middle of chaos, you'll keep reacting instead of responding. You'll make fast choices that lead to long-term regret. You can't win if you keep letting emotions lead your decisions. Winning starts with staying in control, and control isn't about being emotionless. It's about knowing what to do with what you feel. It's about having enough strength to pause before you respond. It's about being aware of how your emotions influence your behavior, and then choosing your actions based on values, not moods. Most people never stop to think about how their emotions are shaping their day. They feel stressed and snap at someone. They feel tired and skip the gym. They feel hurt and shut everyone out. They feel anxious and give up halfway. Then they wonder why things aren't changing. But here's what they miss. Emotions are temporary, but choices have consequences. If you keep reacting from emotion, you'll keep repeating patterns that trap you. The key is to catch yourself. Pay attention to what's going on inside before it shows up in your behavior. When you feel pressure, don't let it push you. When you feel fear, don't let it freeze you. When you feel anger, don't let it speak for you. The strongest people are not the ones who never feel anything. They're the ones who feel everything and still stay grounded. That's the real strength. You've got to become the kind of person who can sit with discomfort without trying to escape it. When frustration builds, learn to breathe through it. When you feel emotional, delay your response. Wait until you can think clearly again. Waiting doesn't mean weakness, it means wisdom. You're protecting your future from being damaged by a temporary emotion. Winning also means you've got to stop letting your emotions control your habits. Some people only work when they feel motivated. Some only eat clean when they feel guilty. Some only push forward when they're excited. That's a weak system. You can't build a winning life on emotional triggers. You need structure. You need rules you follow no matter how you feel. You need to be able to say, "This is what I said I'd do, and I'm doing it, whether I feel like it or not." Emotions will lie to you. They'll tell you you're not good enough. They'll tell you you're too tired. They'll tell you it's okay to quit. But you've got to stop taking emotional thoughts as facts. Not everything you feel deserves a reaction. Some emotions just need to be seen, understood, and left alone. The more you observe them without obeying them, the more power you get back. And with that power you can make better choices, choices that lead to growth. So, you've probably noticed something. When your emotions take over, it's not just one part of your life that suffers, it spreads. You yell at someone, now there's tension all day. You skip your workout, now your energy is off. You stay in bed too long, now your momentum is gone. One emotional decision can affect your entire rhythm, and rhythm is everything. To win, you need rhythm. You need flow. You need to stay sharp. And that means you have to train yourself, not once, every day. When you feel triggered, use it as a test. Instead of reacting, ask yourself, what's the right thing to do right now? Not the easy thing, not the emotional thing, the right thing. That habit of slowing down, of thinking before you act, that's how you build real control. Self-betrayal isn't a talent, it's a skill. You practice it by choosing a better response every single time you get the chance. At first, it's hard. Your emotions will push back. They'll want the final word. But if you keep choosing calm over chaos, reason over reaction, growth over drama, you start rewiring the way you respond to life. You stop being a slave to feelings and start becoming a leader of your own behavior. You also have to learn the difference between what you feel and what's real. Your emotions are signals, not commands. Just because you feel anxious doesn't mean something's wrong. Just because you feel tired doesn't mean you should stop. Just because you feel irritated doesn't mean someone's against you. Emotions are often just noise. And if you don't filter that noise, it becomes your reality. The goal is to build emotional awareness, to know what you're feeling and why. When you can name your emotion, you weaken its control over you. When you can trace the root of it, you start healing instead of hiding. Most people avoid their emotions. They numb them with distractions or dump them on other people. But you're not most people. You're here to win. And winning means owning your emotions, not being owned by them. When you build emotional control, you also build better relationships. You stop overreacting. You stop making everything personal. You stop creating drama where there isn't any. You become someone people can trust. Someone who doesn't explode, who listens, who speaks with clarity. That's how you earn respect. That's how you lead. That's how you move through the world with calm strength. Now here's something important. Emotional control doesn't mean you never feel anything. It means you choose what you give power to. If you need to cry, cry. If you need to talk, talk. But don't let emotions make decisions for you. Don't let them decide your work ethic. Don't let them decide how you treat people. Don't let them decide whether you show up or disappear. You decide. You lead. You own it. Some days, your emotions will feel stronger than your logic. You'll want to lash out. You'll want to quit. You'll want to disappear. That's when you remind yourself, feelings pass, but your actions stay. What you do now builds your future. So breathe. Think. Stay calm. Then act with purpose. To win, you need peace of mind. You need to feel grounded. Emotional chaos makes everything harder. Your focus drops, your performance slips, your relationships suffer. But emotional control creates space. Space to think, to plan, to grow. That's the space you need to keep moving forward. Your future depends on what you do when your emotions try to take over. Your life is shaped by how you respond to pressure, disappointment, failure, frustration. Every day you're being tested, not by the world, but by your own emotional habits. And every time you choose strength over reaction, you're getting better. You're becoming the kind of person who doesn't just chase goals. You become the kind of person who finishes them. So if you want to win in your work, your health, your relationships, your mind, start here. Start by paying attention to what you feel, and then choose what you do next with intention. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be in control. And the more control you build, the more power you have to shape your life the way you want it to be. Chapter 3. Act fast before self-doubt talks you out of it. The longer you wait, the more power self-doubt has. That's how it works. The moment you hesitate, even for a second, the voice of fear creeps in. It starts quiet. Then it gets louder. It starts small. Then it grows into a wall that blocks you from moving forward. Self-doubt doesn't show up when you're doing nothing. It shows up the moment you're about to do something meaningful. And if you don't act fast, it will talk you out of it every time. You've probably had moments where you were about to take a step, but you paused. You thought about what could go wrong. You thought about who might judge you. You thought about whether you were good enough. And in that space between the decision and the action, you gave self-doubt time to build its case. You ended up doing nothing. You backed out. You delayed. And then later you felt regret. That regret didn't come from failure. It came from not trying. People don't fail because they take action. They fail because they let hesitation replace movement. They fail because they think too long instead of doing. Action is the only thing that kills doubt. Once you take the step, the fear fades. The thoughts settle. The noise weakens. But if you stay still, those thoughts take over. They start controlling your decisions. They start shaping your identity. And soon you start believing that you're not capable. Winning isn't about being fearless. It's about moving before fear convinces you to stay still. You don't have to feel ready. You don't have to feel strong. You just have to act. That one step, that one movement, is what makes the difference. Because self-doubt feeds on your silence. It grows when you sit with it too long, but it dies when you move. Think about the goals you've had in your mind for a while. The things you keep telling yourself you'll do. Why haven't you done them? It's not because you're not capable. It's not because you don't have time. It's because you've given self-doubt a seat at the table. And once you let that voice speak, it doesn't shut up. It starts to create reasons, excuses, fears. And the more you listen, the smaller you start to feel. You have to break the cycle. And the way you break it is simple. Act before the voice of doubt gets loud. The moment you feel an idea rise up, do something about it. Write it down. Make the call. Start the task. Begin the thing. Don't wait until you're confident. Confidence doesn't come first. Action does. Confidence is something you earn by doing. It doesn't show up on its own. You build it with movement, repetition, momentum. Most people overthink every decision. They worry about every detail. They try to predict every outcome. But life doesn't reward the overthinker. It rewards the person who starts. The person who begins when things are messy. The person who moves forward even with doubts in their head. The person who acts without having all the answers. You can't win if you keep giving your energy to fear. You can't grow if you keep asking for perfect conditions. You can't change your life if you keep delaying the actions that would change it. You have to move before your comfort zone traps you. You have to break your own patterns. You have to build the habit of acting fast, even if your hands are shaking, even if your heart is racing, even if your mind is unsure. Action is the cure to overthinking. It's the way out of fear. It's the only thing that proves to your brain that you're serious. You want to feel powerful. Do the thing you've been avoiding. You want to feel proud. Take the step you've been putting off. You want to feel progress. Move now, not later. That's where it starts. The problem is, most people wait for motivation. They wait for the perfect mood. But self-doubt doesn't wait. It strikes fast. That's why you have to act faster. You have to build urgency inside yourself. You have to get into the habit of doing before thinking too much. Of trusting your gut before fear starts rewriting the story.
Because if you give that doubt even a few seconds, it will start asking questions you're not ready to answer. And by the time you find the answer, the moment is gone. If you want to build a life that feels strong, that feels forward-moving, you have to become someone who acts. Not just talks, not just plans, but acts. Quickly, decisively, regularly. You have to move even when you don't know the outcome. You have to risk being wrong. Because the people who win in life are not the ones who wait for the green light. They're the ones who go, even when the light is yellow. They understand that speed matters. That hesitation costs time, energy, confidence, and opportunity. You're not stuck. You're just overthinking. You're not lost. You're just waiting too long to move. The answers are on the other side of action. And the more you act, the more clarity you get. The more confidence you build, the more momentum you feel. Self-doubt hates momentum. It can't survive when you're in motion. It needs you to be still. That's when it's strongest, when you're paused. Think about this. How many things in your life would be different right now if you acted quicker? If you made that call? If you started that habit? If you walked into that opportunity without overanalyzing it? If you spoke up when it mattered? If you tried instead of waiting? That's not just lost time. That's lost growth. And the only way to stop that pattern is to break it right now. Make it a rule for yourself. The moment you feel resistance, that's when you move. Not later. Not tomorrow. Right then. That moment. You don't negotiate with self-doubt. You act before it gets a word in. You take back control by taking action. You don't wait for the fear to pass. You walk through it. You do it scared. You do it unsure. But you do it. And the more you practice this, the more it becomes who you are. Not someone who waits, but someone who moves. Not someone who needs permission, but someone who creates results. Not someone who backs down, but someone who leans in. That's how winning is done. Not by thinking about it, but by doing something while others are still deciding. Start now. Start messy. Start uncomfortable. Start small if you have to, but start. Because once you begin, you weaken the grip of fear. You take the power away from doubt, and you prove to yourself, again and again, that you are not a slave to hesitation. You are a builder, a doer, a finisher. And that kind of person wins not just once but over and over again. Chapter 4. Show up daily even when you feel nothing inside. There will be days when you wake up and you don't feel anything. No motivation, no energy, no drive, just silence inside. No reason to move forward, no inspiration pushing you, no spark to light the fire. And those are the days that matter most. Those are the days that separate the people who talk about discipline from the ones who actually live it. Anybody can show up when everything feels right, when they're excited, when the mood is strong, when the fire is burning. But what do you do when the fire goes out? When your mind feels flat, your heart feels tired, and your spirit feels quiet? You show up anyway. Success doesn't belong to the loudest. It belongs to the most consistent. The ones who show up, no matter how they feel. The ones who understand that feelings are not facts, and energy is not a requirement. You don't need to be in the mood to do the work. You don't need to feel inspired to stay committed. You just need to show up. Again and again, especially when nothing inside you feels like showing up. Life isn't fair. It's not always going to give you the energy you want. It's not going to hand you inspiration when you're down. Sometimes it gives you silence. Sometimes it gives you emptiness. And in those moments, you either wait for a feeling that may never come, or you move without it. That's how discipline is built. That's how internal strength is formed. That's how you earn results. You show up on the empty days, on the dull days, on the low days. That's where the shift happens. It's easy to work when you feel driven, but discipline means working when there's no drive at all. Discipline means you still stick to your routine, even when your thoughts are heavy and your body feels slow. It means honoring your word when you feel numb inside. It means choosing action over escape, even when escape feels more comfortable. You can't wait for your emotions to catch up. You have to act without them. Because those emotions, they're temporary, but your actions, they leave a mark. The way you show up today is part of who you become tomorrow. The way you behave when no one sees you, when nothing pushes you, that's the version of you that builds something lasting. You might not feel proud every day. You might not feel confident. You might not feel strong. But if you keep showing up, those feelings start to come back. They return because of your consistency. They return because of your follow-through. You don't chase them, you lead them. You lead your mind by proving it wrong every time it tells you to stop. And here's the truth. Nobody else is responsible for pulling you out of that low place. Nobody's coming to hand you motivation. That's your job. And your best tool is action. It doesn't have to be big. You don't need to do everything. Just something. A small step. A single task. That's how you begin to break through the fog. You don't need a full tank to take the first step. Just enough to move. Just enough to show yourself that even on your worst days, you still have the ability to act. You still have the strength to keep going. That's what builds belief. Not your best days, but your hardest ones. Those silent mornings where everything feels off. That's where the winners are made. When your thoughts feel cloudy, and your emotions are shut down, and yet you still lace up. You still sit down to work. You still honor your word. That's powerful. That's self-respect. That's emotional maturity. Most people fold when they feel nothing. They stay in bed. They scroll their phone. They say, "Not today." And every time they do, they teach their brain to quit when things get quiet. They make comfort the default. They build the habit of running when life stops pushing them. And over time, they forget how to move without external pressure. But the ones who win, they don't rely on pressure. They rely on values. They move because they've trained themselves to do it. They've tied their identity to consistency. They don't say, "I don't feel like it today." They say, "This is what I do, and I do it anyway." You have to get to that place. That mental place where your behavior is no longer tied to your emotions, where your plans are stronger than your feelings, where your system is stronger than your excuses, where your word means more to you than how you feel in the moment. That's when everything starts to change. When you stop needing the mood to be right. When you stop chasing good days. When you stop waiting for everything to feel okay before you move. And instead you move no matter what. The truth is, your most important work often comes on the days when you don't feel ready. The breakthrough happens when you choose discipline in the middle of emptiness. You push through not because it's fun, but because it's right. You keep the promise because it matters. You finish the day because you're building a life you can be proud of. You won't always see results right away. But what you are doing is more powerful than results. You're creating evidence. You're showing your mind that you can be relied on. You're building proof that you follow through. And that kind of trust in yourself, that quiet confidence becomes your foundation. You don't win by feeling great all the time. You win by not quitting when you feel nothing. You win by becoming reliable, even to yourself. Especially to yourself. You win by showing up when the world isn't cheering, when no one is clapping, when no one sees what you're doing. That's where real strength is created. So if today feels heavy, good. That's your training ground. If today feels flat, perfect. That's your test. Because when the emotions disappear, the habits stay. When the motivation fades, your character steps in. And every time you rise on a day you could have stayed down, you are proving to yourself that you are in control. And that is where winning begins. Not in the excitement, not in the highs, but in the silence, in the stillness, in the discomfort. That's where the real work is done. And if you can keep showing up on those days, the rest will take care of itself. Show up, not just when it's easy, not just when it's fun. Show up when you feel nothing, when it all feels heavy, when the spark is gone. That's how you win. That's how you grow. That's how you build something no one can take away.
Chapter 5. Do what makes you uncomfortable every single morning. The first thing you do in the morning shapes the rest of your day. It sets the tone. It defines your mindset. And if the first thing you do is avoid discomfort, that becomes your pattern. Your body learns it. Your mind expects it. And eventually you start building a life that revolves around comfort. That's why winning begins when you stop choosing what's easy and start choosing what's uncomfortable. Not once in a while, every morning, every day, right when you wake up. The world trains most people to avoid discomfort. Hit snooze, stay under the covers, check your phone, delay your responsibilities, look for something entertaining. But that's the trap. That's how you slowly become someone who waits, who hesitates, who avoids, and the longer you live in that rhythm, the harder it becomes to break out. That's why the very first thing you do each day should challenge you. It should stretch your will. It should wake you up mentally, not just physically. When you start your day with something that makes you uncomfortable, you're sending a message to yourself. You're not here to live on autopilot. You're not here to coast. You're here to grow. And growth is not supposed to feel safe. It's supposed to shake you a little. It's supposed to remind you that progress always demands something from you. Doing what's uncomfortable in the morning doesn't mean pain. It means resistance. It means choosing the task that your mind wants to delay. The workout you keep avoiding. The cold shower you keep skipping. The silence you don't want to sit with. The journaling you said you'd do. The tough conversation you've been putting off. The commitment you keep avoiding. These are the exact things that build strength when you do them early, when your brain is still waking up, when your comfort-seeking instincts are at their strongest. Every time you do the uncomfortable thing in the morning, you weaken the voice that tries to protect you from growth. That voice doesn't want you to get stronger. It wants you to stay in control of comfort. It wants you to be predictable, small, safe, but that version of you doesn't win. That version watches other people rise while staying stuck. That version blames the world instead of challenging themselves. That version slowly starts to believe that this is all there is. You need to push past that. And the best way to do it is early, before the day gets loud, before distractions steal your attention, before doubts build up, before excuses gather. You take control by acting before the noise starts. And what you choose to do first thing in the morning tells your brain what kind of person you are. When you walk straight into discomfort, you're creating proof that you're capable, that you're not soft, that you're not dependent on the right mood, that you don't need permission to act, that you don't wait to feel ready. You go, you start, you build momentum on purpose, you lead yourself, and the confidence that comes from that is real, because it's earned, it's built from friction, and friction is where the shift happens. Most people think success comes from motivation, but motivation is a side effect. The more you do the uncomfortable thing, the more power you feel. The more you delay it, the more tired you become.
Because avoiding hard things drains your energy. It doesn't protect you. It wears you down. And every time you dodge that one uncomfortable task, it keeps growing in your mind. It starts to feel bigger than it is. And soon it controls you. You can reverse that today by taking control of your morning, by choosing the thing that makes your body hesitate. The moment you hear your mind whisper, "Do it later," that's your cue. That's your target. That's where you start. You move into it. You don't wait to understand it. You don't debate it. You act immediately, without drama, without delay. And the beauty of this, you only need a few days of doing this to start feeling different. You'll notice it in the way you carry yourself, in the way you speak, in the way you plan, in the way you handle discomfort in other areas of your life. When you train yourself to do something difficult every morning, you raise your personal standard. You stop expecting things to be easy. And when life throws something unexpected your way, you're already prepared. You've been practicing. Doing what's uncomfortable each morning also kills procrastination. Because procrastination doesn't come from laziness. It comes from fear, and fear grows in the absence of action. But if you teach yourself to start your day by walking into fear, into resistance, into uncertainty, then procrastination loses its hold. It can't survive in a body that moves quickly, in a mind that says, "I don't feel like it, but I'm doing it anyway." This isn't about intensity. It's about identity. It's about becoming someone who doesn't wait around, someone who doesn't back down from small challenges, someone who's conditioned to move forward even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable, because that's where power lives. That's where growth lives. That's where the gap between where you are and where you want to be begins to close. You don't need a new plan. You don't need better motivation. You need action. Consistent, uncomfortable action. And the best place to put that is in your morning. Not after everything else. Not at the end of the day when you're tired. Put it at the start. That's where your willpower is fresh. That's where you set your rhythm. That's where you show yourself what matters. If you wake up every day and do the thing you don't want to do, the hard task, the cold plunge, the early training, the honest journaling, the silent thinking, you are building a version of yourself that no one can stop. Because once discomfort becomes normal, fear stops being a barrier. Delay stops being a habit. Doubt stops being a wall. You just move. And winners are built through that kind of movement. So stop telling yourself you'll do it later. Stop telling yourself the morning's too early. Stop telling yourself you need more time. The truth is, you've had enough time. What you need now is proof. And the way you get that is by choosing discomfort on purpose. Making it your training. Making it your first victory of the day. Because when you do that, every morning, something in you changes. You stop looking for easy. You stop needing external pressure. You stop waiting for confidence. You stop running from resistance. And instead, you walk straight into it. Day after day. And that right there is how you become the kind of person who wins. Not sometimes, but every day, starting first thing in the morning.
Chapter 6. Break your patterns before they become your personality. You become what you repeat. That's the simple truth. What you do daily eventually becomes who you are. Your thoughts shape your actions. Your actions turn into habits, and your habits slowly harden into your personality. That's why most people stay stuck, not because they don't want change, but because they don't interrupt the patterns that keep them small. If you don't break your patterns will become your identity.
And once that happens, you start believing that's just the way you are. You're not born with self-doubt. You're not born with laziness. You're not born distracted, negative, or reactive. Those are patterns you picked up somewhere along the way, maybe from your environment, maybe from people around you, maybe from a tough season in life. And when you repeated them long enough, they started to feel natural, comfortable, familiar. But just because something feels familiar doesn't mean it's good for you. You need to look at your life with complete honesty and ask yourself, what patterns am I stuck in right now? What do I keep doing that's slowly turning into who I am? Do you reach for your phone first thing in the morning? Do you avoid uncomfortable tasks until the last minute? Do you shrink your voice when you know you should speak up? Do you delay decisions because you're scared of being wrong? These aren't just random actions. They are loops. And every time you repeat them, you're wiring your brain to believe that this is normal. But it's not who you are. It's just a habit you haven't challenged yet. You have to break the loop before the loop breaks you. Because once you start defending your patterns, it becomes your personality. You'll hear people say, "That's just how I am." No, that's just what you've practiced long enough that you stopped questioning it. And the more you accept it, the more it sticks. The more it sticks, the harder it becomes to change. But here's the good news. You can break any pattern the same way you built it, with repetition. You built those habits through daily behavior. You can unbuild them the same way. You don't need a miracle. You need awareness, decision, and consistent action. You have to become the kind of person who catches your patterns early and corrects them fast. That's how you protect your identity from being shaped by your lowest habits. Start paying attention to how you react in the same situations. When you feel pressure, do you shut down? When something is unclear, do you avoid it? When you feel uncomfortable, do you distract yourself? That's the real work. Not just doing more, but understanding why you do what you do. And once you see the pattern, you've got to interrupt it. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Now. Patterns don't break on their own. You have to make a conscious choice to do something different. Even if it feels strange. Even if it feels wrong. Growth always feels weird at first. But the more you lean into that discomfort, the more space you create for a better version of yourself. The danger is that most people wait too long. They think, "I'll stop this habit later. I'll work on it eventually." But eventually never shows up. And the longer you stay in a pattern, the more automatic it becomes. Soon it doesn't feel like a choice. It just feels like life. And that's when it's the hardest to break. When you've built a life around something that isn't serving you. But you're not stuck. You're just untrained. You're not broken. You've just been on autopilot. And the moment you become aware of that, is the moment you get your power back. You can decide today that your patterns don't get to run your life anymore. You can decide that your future deserves more than your past habits. This isn't about guilt. It's not about blaming yourself. It's about responsibility. If you created it, you can uncreate it. You're not a victim of your routines. You're the architect. Which means you can tear down what isn't working and build something stronger in its place. But it starts by breaking one loop at a time. Pick one. Just one. The one that keeps showing up. The one that keeps stealing your momentum. Don't try to change everything overnight. That's how people burn out. Focus on one shift. Replace one pattern. Interrupt one reaction. And do it every day until the new response becomes your new normal. And don't wait for the perfect mood to do this work. Changing patterns is uncomfortable. It's going to feel like you're forcing it at first. That's normal. You've spent years training your brain to respond a certain way. It's not going to let go easily. But the more consistent you are, the more those wires start to shift. The old pattern loses strength. The new one starts to grow. This is how real transformation happens. Not with big breakthroughs, but with small corrections. Quiet changes. Private victories. That's where the real you starts to emerge. Not the version shaped by fear. Not the version trained by insecurity. But the version you were meant to become before you started settling into old behaviors. And remember this, the people around you will get used to your patterns too. When you change, it might confuse them. You might hear, "You've changed." That's a good sign. You're not here to keep acting the same just to make other people comfortable. You're here to evolve. You're here to grow. You're here to rewrite your story. And you don't need permission to do that. You don't owe your past anything. You don't have to stay loyal to old habits that drain you. You don't have to carry old behaviors into a new chapter. You can start fresh. Not by becoming someone else, but by becoming the version of you that's been buried under patterns that don't serve you anymore. Your habits are not your identity. Your reactions are not your future. Your past patterns don't have the right to decide who you become. Only you do. And every time you do something different, something better, you're taking your power back. You're building a foundation on purpose instead of routine. So pay attention. Watch yourself like you would someone you care about. Notice when you're slipping into autopilot. Notice when you're repeating a behavior that doesn't help. Then pause, breathe, choose something better, and do it again tomorrow, and the day after, until the new pattern is strong enough to carry you forward. That's how real change happens. That's how you build a personality that reflects strength, discipline, and clarity. You don't fake it. You train it. One action at a time. One morning at a time. One decision at a time. You are not your patterns. You are the one who decides which ones stay and which ones end today.
Chapter 7. Say no to noise so you can hear yourself. You can't hear your own thoughts when you're surrounded by noise. You can't hear your real voice when everyone else's opinions are louder than your own. And you can't build a clear life when your attention is pulled in every direction. Most people aren't stuck because they lack potential. They're stuck because they can't hear themselves think. They've been so busy reacting, comparing, scrolling, checking, pleasing, performing, they've forgotten what their own mind sounds like. That's the danger of noise. It keeps you distracted just long enough to lose your sense of self. You wake up and your mind already belongs to the world. You reach for your phone before you reach for your goals. You check who messaged you before you check in with yourself. You open apps before you open your journal. And before the day even begins, your mind has already been hijacked. The world tells you what to care about. It tells you what's urgent, what's trending, what's popular, what's expected. But here's what you need to know. Just because it's loud doesn't mean it's important. Just because everyone's doing it doesn't mean it's right for you. There's a cost to letting in too much noise. It makes you anxious, reactive, confused. It crowds your thinking. It makes you second-guess what you already know. It replaces your instincts with insecurity. And the longer you're surrounded by it, the more numb you become to your own needs. You start to lose track of what matters. You forget what drives you. You drift, and if you don't create space to hear yourself, you will always feel pulled by what's around you. You will chase things that don't fulfill you. You'll make decisions based on pressure instead of clarity. And slowly you'll build a life that looks fine on the outside, but feels empty on the inside. Because it wasn't built from you, it was built from noise. You have to say no.
No to the constant input. No to the pressure to always be available. No to the need to respond instantly. No to the habit of filling every quiet moment with something. It's not about disconnecting from the world. It's about reconnecting with yourself. And you can't do that unless you create space, stillness, silence, time to think your own thoughts, time to ask your own questions, time to hear the truth that doesn't come from a screen. This doesn't mean you disappear. It means you protect your energy. You create boundaries that let you breathe. You take control of your attention, because attention is your most valuable asset. And every time you give it away without thinking, you weaken your focus. You stretch your mind too thin, and a scattered mind cannot build anything strong. If you want clarity, you have to choose it. You have to carve out time that belongs only to you. Mornings with no noise, walks with no phone, breaks with no distractions. You need space to sit with your own mind, not to entertain it, but to understand it, not to run from your thoughts, but to face them. Because when you finally sit still long enough, you start to hear things that were buried underneath the noise. Your goals, your doubts, your vision, your truth. But most people avoid silence, because silence brings them face to face with the parts of themselves they've been ignoring. The fears, the questions, the uncomfortable truths. So they stay busy, they stay stimulated, they stay distracted. But growth doesn't happen in stimulation. Growth happens when you pause, reflect, listen. That's how you realign. That's how you get back on track. You don't need to change everything overnight. Start small. Turn off what drains you. Mute what distracts you. Unfollow what doesn't serve you. Block out noise with intention. Protect your mornings. Own your evenings. Create a buffer between you and the outside world, so you can find space to breathe, to think, to feel what's really going on. Because once you get quiet, you'll start to hear what matters. You'll hear the voice that's been drowned out by expectations. You'll hear the thoughts you've been avoiding. You'll hear the clarity you've been searching for in all the wrong places. And in that moment, you'll realize you always knew what you needed. You were just too distracted to notice. The more you practice silence, the stronger your inner voice becomes. And when your inner voice gets strong, the world's noise loses its grip. You stop chasing. You stop comparing. You stop reacting to everything. You begin responding from a place of power. You begin choosing based on who you are, not who the world wants you to be. That's the shift. That's when things begin to align. Your energy sharpens. Your focus strengthens. Your actions feel connected. You stop living a scattered life. You begin building a grounded one. One that reflects your values, not the latest trend. One that reflects your truth, not someone else's success. One that's rooted in clarity, not chaos. This is not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming intentional. It's about not letting the noise set your standards. It's about not letting your mind be pulled in 50 directions before breakfast. You deserve peace, but peace doesn't come from more information. It comes from less noise, from boundaries, from stillness, from choosing what you let into your head. And once you get used to quiet, you'll start to protect it. You'll value it. You'll crave it. Because in the quiet, you find your answers. You find your focus. You find your next step, not by being told what to do, but by listening to the part of you that already knows. So say no, not out of fear, out of strength. Say no to the noise that clouds your thinking. Say no to the pressure that confuses your priorities. Say no to the endless flood of content that drowns your own creativity. Say no so you can hear what matters. Say no so you can hear yourself again, because your voice matters. Your thoughts matter. Your clarity matters. But they only rise when you stop letting everything else take up space in your mind. Give yourself that space. Create it. Guard it. And use it to build a life that's not just full but full of the right things. That's how you move forward. That's how you take back control. That's how you begin to hear what's always been inside you. The part of you that's been waiting for some silence so it could finally speak.
Chapter 8. Face your weaknesses without running from the truth. Nobody becomes stronger by hiding their flaws. You don't grow by pretending you have it all figured out. The real work begins the moment you look at yourself honestly and admit what's holding you back. That kind of truth is uncomfortable, but it's necessary. Most people spend their lives avoiding it. They avoid the mirror. They avoid reflection. They avoid anything that might show them something they're not ready to face. But if you avoid truth, you avoid transformation. You stay stuck in habits that limit you. You stay stuck in cycles that exhaust you. And worst of all, you stay stuck in a version of yourself that you've already outgrown. Facing your weaknesses doesn't make you weak. Ignoring them does. It takes strength to stop running from what needs to be fixed. It takes courage to stop defending what's broken. You can only improve what you're willing to admit. And the sooner you admit it, the sooner you can change it. You can't build a better life on top of denial. You build it by being real, raw, and ready to work. This means looking at your daily actions, your habits, your mindset. How do you speak to yourself when you mess up? Do you blame others when things don't go right? Do you procrastinate every time you feel uncomfortable? Do you give up the moment things feel hard? These are not random behaviors. They're indicators. They tell the truth, even when your words don't. You can say you want growth, but if your actions say otherwise, you're lying to yourself. And you can't lie your way into progress. You have to sit with the uncomfortable facts. Maybe you've been lazy. Maybe you've been making excuses. Maybe you've been waiting for someone else to fix what you need to fix yourself. That's not something to feel ashamed of. It's something to face, because once you face it, you can change it. You're not stuck. You're just untrained. You're not a failure. You've just been ignoring the parts of yourself that need work. Nobody is born disciplined. Nobody is born fearless. Nobody is born consistent. Those are all learned, and they're learned by choosing honesty over denial, by choosing action over avoidance, by deciding that your future matters more than your pride. If you want to grow, you have to stop defending your weakness. Stop justifying it. Stop covering it with humor. Stop pretending it's not there. Own it, and then do something about it. Start by asking yourself some real questions. Where are you falling short? What do you keep running from? What have you been avoiding? Don't sugarcoat it. Don't spin it into something positive. Just be honest. The truth won't break you, it will build you. But only if you face it. Too many people waste time pretending. They spend energy trying to protect their image, trying to look like they have it all together. But progress doesn't care about how things look. It cares about what you're willing to confront. You don't get stronger by pretending you're already strong. You get stronger by training your weak spots until they no longer control you. And that starts with self-respect. If you respect yourself, you tell yourself the truth, even when it stings. Even when it exposes the parts of you that are lazy, careless, undisciplined, inconsistent. That truth is where your power lives.
Because you can't change what you refuse to see. You can't upgrade what you keep avoiding. The moment you face it, though, you gain leverage. You gain clarity. You gain the ability to act. This isn't about being hard on yourself. It's about being responsible. It's about looking at your life and saying, I can do better, and I will. That mindset changes everything. Because now you're not waiting on anyone. You're not blaming circumstances. You're taking full control. You're stepping into ownership. That's where freedom begins. It's not easy. It takes humility. You have to admit you've been playing small. You have to accept that some of your habits are hurting you. You have to admit that your comfort zone has become your prison. But once you do, once you stop lying to yourself, you can start building something real, something solid, something you don't have to fake. You have to stop reacting and start responding. Stop avoiding feedback and start listening. Stop making excuses and start making changes. Every weakness you avoid becomes stronger. Every weakness you face becomes weaker. It's that simple. And the more you practice facing yourself, the more powerful you become. You start building a different relationship with pain. You stop fearing it. You stop running from it. You start using it. Because you know it's pointing you towards something important, something worth fixing. That discomfort you feel when you look at your weak spots, that's a signal. That's your mind telling you, this matters. Pay attention. And when you listen, really listen, you start seeing things differently. You stop wasting time trying to look impressive. You stop comparing yourself to people who aren't even playing the same game. You start focusing on one thing, getting better. Bit by bit, day by day, not to impress anyone, but because you refuse to stay the same. That's what growth is. It's not shiny. It's not loud. It's quiet, private work. It's you choosing to show up for yourself when no one's watching. It's you choosing to do the hard thing instead of the easy thing. It's you choosing to fix the crack in your foundation before it turns into collapse. That's real power. That's what makes you different. So face it. Whatever it is. The habits, the attitude, the laziness, the fear, the self-doubt. Face it. Stop numbing it. Stop hiding behind distractions. Get still. Get clear. And tell yourself the truth. This is where I am. This is what I need to change. This is the work I have to do. And then do it. Quietly, relentlessly, without needing anyone to clap for you. Without needing instant results. You don't need validation. You need consistency. You don't need praise. You need progress. And that comes from the daily decision to face yourself with honesty and discipline. Your weaknesses don't define you. Your response to them does. You can keep avoiding, or you can start evolving. But you can't do both. Choose wisely. Choose strength. Choose truth. That's how you become someone you're proud of. That's how you win. That's how you grow. Every single time. Chapter 9. Take action the moment your excuses show up. Excuses don't start loud. They start subtle. A small thought. A quiet whisper. A tiny reason not to move right now. And if you don't respond immediately, they grow. They build momentum. And the longer you sit with them, the more convincing they become. That's how most people lose their day. Not in one big moment, but in tiny decisions that get delayed, ignored, or pushed aside. The mind offers you a way out, and instead of shutting it down, you entertain it. You sit with it. You listen to it. And the longer you do, the harder it becomes to move. Excuses are the first sign that action needs to happen. Not later. Not when you feel better. Not after you've had time to think. Right now, you don't need to argue with your excuses. You don't need to analyze them. You don't need to write about them. The answer is simple. Act. The moment they show up, move. Even if it's small, even if it's uncomfortable. Action is how you kill the voice that says, "Not today," because that voice will always have something to say. You're too tired. You don't have time. You're not ready. It's not urgent. You'll do it later. That voice doesn't care about your goals. It doesn't care about your values. It only wants to keep you safe. But safe is not where you grow. Safe is where you stay stuck. And if you keep giving your excuses time to speak, they will start running your life. The strongest people you know, the disciplined ones, the focused ones, the consistent ones, they don't have fewer excuses. They just act before those excuses take control. They've trained themselves to associate resistance with movement. The second they feel the pull to delay, they move. They know if they don't, the window closes. They lose the energy. They lose the urgency. And once that's gone, momentum disappears. You need to build that same instinct. The moment your mind says, "Skip it," you do it anyway. The moment it says, "Later," you choose now. Because that's when the shift happens, not when it's easy, but when it's hard. That's when self-respect is built. That's when your identity starts to change. You go from someone who negotiates with excuses to someone who moves without debate. That inner resistance, it's not a reason to stop. It's a signal to go. That hesitation is proof you're about to do something important, something uncomfortable, something necessary. Most people wait until that feeling passes. But winners use that feeling as a trigger. The discomfort is not the problem. Sitting with it is. You don't need more time. You need less hesitation. The danger is that excuses can sound reasonable. They're not always loud or dramatic. Sometimes they sound responsible, logical, protective, but underneath all of them is the same thing. Fear. Fear of failure. Fear of judgment. Fear of effort. And fear disguised as logic is still fear. It's still in your way. And the only way to take its power away is to act. Not with perfection. Not with confidence. Just with movement. You don't need to feel strong to take the first step. You just need to move before the excuse gains strength. Before it wraps itself around your thoughts. Before it becomes your new truth. And the truth is, most excuses are just bad habits dressed up as valid reasons. They're not real barriers. They're practiced reactions. You've repeated them so many times, they feel automatic. But automatic doesn't mean final. You can retrain that reflex. But it starts with action. Every time you choose to act, instead of hesitate, you build a new habit, a new story, a new standard. You prove to yourself that excuses don't get the last word. You prove that your future matters more than your comfort. And that proof, repeated daily, turns into power. Quiet power. Real power. Not the kind that shouts. The kind that shows up again and again without asking for permission. This is how real momentum is built. Not from inspiration, but from execution. From doing the thing you said you would do, even when everything in you wants to delay it. Even when the day feels heavy. Even when the mood isn't right. That's where winners are made. In the moments they could have waited but didn't. And you already know what you've been putting off. You know the tasks that keep getting pushed. You know the habits you said you'd build but haven't. You know the areas where you keep making excuses instead of progress. Stop waiting for the perfect mindset. That's just another excuse. Start where you are. Start with the mess. Start with the resistance. But start, do something, and then do it again tomorrow. The goal isn't to be flawless. The goal is to be unshakable. That doesn't happen when everything feels smooth. It happens when you keep moving through the friction. When you stop listening to the voice that tells you to stop. When you get up and move before the comfort pulls you back. And over time that becomes your normal. You stop waiting. You stop hesitating. You start doing. And people will wonder how you stay so consistent, how you get so much done. But they won't see the private moments where you moved through resistance, where you showed up when it was easier not to, where you acted before the excuse took over. That's what separates people who talk from people who rise. The willingness to act fast, the refusal to negotiate, the mindset that says, if the excuse shows up, I move faster. Not later, not when I feel better. Now you don't need more motivation. You need more movement. Motivation will follow. Confidence will catch up. But none of that comes before action. And the action that matters most is the one you take right when the excuse starts talking. Make that your new standard. The second your mind says, you can skip this, move. The moment it says, take a break, act. The second it tries to slow you down, speed up. Not recklessly, not aggressively, just decisively. That's how you take your power back. That's how you stop letting hesitation run your day. Excuses lose their grip when you stop respecting them, when you stop treating them like facts, when you stop letting them sit in your head rent-free. You owe your excuses nothing. You owe your future everything. And the future is built in the moment you decide not to wait. So start now. Don't argue. Don't delay. Don't let the excuse grow. Because once it does, it's harder to fight. The strongest version of you is built in that moment. The moment you move without asking for comfort, without asking for motivation, without asking for ease. Just action. Pure, clear, fast action. That's how you change your patterns. That's how you build a winning rhythm. That's how you rise. You move the moment the excuse shows up. You do the thing before the voice gets loud. You take back the day one small decision at a time. And you don't stop, because this isn't about being perfect. It's about being committed. Relentlessly. Now.
Chapter 10. Train your identity to match your highest standards. Your life will never rise higher than the standards you hold yourself to. You can read every book, set every goal, write out every plan, but if your identity doesn't match the level of your standards, you'll always fall short. Not because you're not capable, but because you keep showing up as a version of yourself that can't sustain what you say you want. It's not enough to want more. You have to become someone who naturally expects more from yourself. Not once in a while, but every single day. The problem is most people try to change their results without changing their identity. They try to behave differently without shifting who they believe they are, and that never works for long. You can push yourself to act like someone else for a little while, but your habits always drift back to match your internal identity. That's why people sabotage progress. Because deep down, they still believe they're the old version. The one who quits. The one who cuts corners. The one who's inconsistent. Until you change that belief, you'll always be at war with yourself. Training your identity is not about pretending. It's not about fake confidence or surface-level motivation. It's about rewiring what you expect from yourself. It's about becoming the kind of person who sees discipline as normal, effort as automatic, high standards as non-negotiable. That shift doesn't come from reading. It comes from action, repetition, evidence. You prove to yourself every day who you are becoming. You don't rise to your goals. You fall to your habits. And your habits are built on your identity. If you keep calling yourself lazy, you'll act like it. If you keep saying you're not consistent,
you'll keep proving it right. That's why your language matters. That's why your thoughts matter, because they're training your identity, moment by moment. The only way to shift this is to start behaving like the version of yourself you respect, even if it feels unnatural, even if your mind pushes back. You train your identity the same way you train your body, through daily practice. You act like the person you want to become, and over time you begin to believe it. The key is consistency. You can't do it once and expect it to stick. You have to keep showing up, even when it's quiet, even when it's boring, even when no one notices. You have to define what your highest standards actually look like. Not vague goals, specific behavior. What time does that version of you wake up? How do they speak to themselves? What kind of effort do they bring to their work? How do they handle pressure? What do they say no to? What do they tolerate? What do they protect? These are not small details. These are the rules that shape your identity. And your rules have to be higher than your mood. Most people set rules based on how they feel. If they feel tired, they lower the bar. If they feel discouraged, they skip the action. But your identity isn't built on emotion, it's built on repetition. You become what you repeat. And if you keep lowering your standards to match your feelings, you'll never step into the life that's waiting for you on the other side of self-discipline. You have to raise your minimums. Your worst day should still reflect a high standard. Not perfect, but committed. Not flawless, but focused. The version of you that wins isn't the one who performs great when things are easy. It's the one who shows up strong when things are messy, slow and uncertain. That version doesn't appear by accident. It's trained, it's built. One decision at a time, and you don't wait until you feel like that person to act like them. You act first. You move first. You raise your effort first. Then over time your identity begins to shift. You start to believe, this is who I am now. Not because you read it in a book, but because you've lived it. You've seen yourself do hard things. You've watched yourself honor your word. You've kept promises when no one was watching. That's where self-respect comes from. Earned action, not intention, not motivation, execution. It's not about being better than anyone else. It's about being better than your past self. It's about looking in the mirror and knowing that you are not living below your potential, that you are not selling yourself short, that you're not coasting, settling, hiding, that you are showing up with full effort, full responsibility, full ownership. And when you start living that way, everything begins to change. Your standards raise your energy. They filter your choices. They keep you aligned. They protect your progress. When something tempts you to go back to old habits, your new identity steps in. You no longer ask, can I get away with this? You ask, does this match who I am now? That shift is where real power begins. You have to stop identifying with your limits. Stop repeating old stories about who you used to be. Start creating new evidence. Start acting in alignment with the future you. Not the comfortable you, not the convenient you. The future you. The one who moves without waiting. The one who speaks with clarity. The one who finishes what they start. That version of you is not a fantasy. It's the result of training. And that training begins today. You can't afford to train your identity through comfort. That will only make you soft. You train it through discipline, through hard mornings, through focused evenings, through doing the things you said you'd do, even when nobody is there to remind you. Especially then. That's how you build belief. That's how you create alignment between who you are and what you expect. This isn't about waiting for a breakthrough. It's about building a foundation, strong enough to carry your goals, stable enough to hold your success. That foundation is your character, your values, your work ethic, your consistency. And those things don't just appear, they're built brick by brick through every decision you make when no one's watching. You train your identity every time you say no to something that pulls you backward. You train it every time you say yes to something that stretches you. You train it when you keep going past your old limits. When you move without needing applause. When you take full responsibility for your direction. That's how your identity evolves. Not in a single moment, but through every ordinary day that you treat with respect. So ask yourself, right now, who are you training yourself to be? Are you reinforcing weakness or building strength? Are you repeating old excuses or rewriting your standard? Every choice is a vote for the kind of person you become, and you don't need to be perfect to make progress. You just need to stop repeating behaviors that belong to the old you. Every day you're building something, a life, a mindset, a legacy. Don't build it on convenience. Don't build it on survival. Build it on excellence. Build it on values. Build it on the highest standard you can hold. And when your identity matches that standard, success won't feel forced. It'll feel natural. Not because it's easy, but because it's who you are now.